Hey, Mark here in a cafe in Jaffa. This is part of Tel Aviv. This is on fascism in practice. There's a lot of people calling the Donald a fascist, whether that's true or not. And it made me kind of look at myself as well and go, okay, well, in what ways are we fascist as trainers? I was just having coffee with a really, really nice yoga teacher here in Israel. And we were talking about, if someone told me how to sit on a chair, I'd be like, fuck you, man, I'll sit how I want. But that's exactly what's happening in the average postural yoga class or the average martial arts class. Is someone's telling you exactly how to sit, stand, even breathe. Like what could be more fascist than that? We're talking about the model. I have this model of awareness and choice rather than say the correction model, which is a lot of what's out there would be like, you're breathing wrong, you're standing wrong, you're sitting wrong, you shouldn't slump, you shouldn't do this with your eyes, whatever. The fascism, to slightly misuse that word, of saying you have to sit this way, you have to stand this way, you have to even breathe this way. There's a fundamental way we're exposing ourselves to that conformity, that fascism, as we teach embodiment arts in these kind of ways. Now, there's nothing wrong with form practice. What I really love about form practice, whether it's yoga, martial arts, dance, whatever, is that by having a form, we reveal our patterns in how we don't adhere to that form. So this is what Jim Tarrant, one of my yoga teachers, calls the exposure principle. I call it deviation principle. It's a beautiful thing, right? Because we say, oh, that's me, look, I'm not doing the step in the same way, or I'm doing it in a more airy way or earthly way, or whatever models we use. So this is where I think it's a real benefit of form, but that doesn't make the form morally right. And I'd ask, with any kind of embodied practice, we could say, well, right for what? For whom? When? What does this do? And that's the first set of questions. And the second one would be like, what's your evidence for that? Like, this is the right way to breathe, or who says? Like people say breathing in different ways is very helpful. So who's right? How do we discern? There's our own experience. There might be some evidence based on certain things. But right for what? Like power postures, they're good for building testosterone, perhaps, or reducing cortisol levels. But good for humility? Probably not. Probably not for someone like me in the place I am now. So I think looking at those things as teachers, we're inheriting these very authoritarian kind of guru models from the East, particularly, that translate quite badly into the West as basically fascism. And I wonder if this doesn't create a kind of shadow. I wonder if this doesn't. On the one hand, we're holding generally sort of fairly liberal values. Most of the people in embodied practice. I know one Trump supporting yoga teacher, but it's pretty liberal values across the board. Usually, in the places I know in the West and Israel, many places. So on the one hand, we're holding these liberal values of sort of freedom of speech and do what you want and creativity. But on the other hand, that's not expressed in the classes. Or the other extreme, something like 5 rhythms, it's just expressed. It's just like blah, and the people's 5 rhythms. There's form to 5 rhythms, a little bit, kind of, sort of, not like karate though, So different extremes people can go to of no form or being slaves to form, the way that can push part of ourselves down, that come out in weird ways, and you see this with sort of very controlling, uptight yoga teachers. I see that a lot, actually. So the average yoga teacher is really controlling, and that's part of themselves and of other people, right? Because they've spent so much time trying to get it right, that they then translate that into their relationships with others, which doesn't work out very well, usually, does it? As a lover, parent, friend, teacher, whatever. So, some thoughts on fascism and embodiment given the state of the world.